Hi, I'm Lisa Roberts from Yo-Yo Yoga School, and welcome to my movement, meditation, and mindfulness training program for pediatric professionals, educators, and parents. Today's topic is mindfulness, and specifically mindful breathing for children. Before we get started, I'd like to try a little icebreaker with you. If you could make a fist as tight as you can. You can see my knuckles are already turning kind of purple and white. I'm squeezing so tight, and I want you to do the same. So tightest fist that you can, and we're going to hold it for 10 seconds to my count. Are you ready? Tight, tight, tight. 10, 9, 8, 7, tight as you can. Tight, 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 tight. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and let it go. Okay. So what we just did with that little exercise was recreated a stress. And I want you to think back to that moment where I asked you to release your hand. How did that feel? And you may not have been aware, but it's very possible you weren't only clenching this fist, but you were clenching the other fist. Perhaps you had your shoulders scrunched up towards your ears, or clenched your jaw, or perhaps you even held your breath. And this would have been obvious when you released the hand. You may have also made that little sigh of relief, letting the breath out that you held. That's because we created a stress, or we created a tension. This to a child can be an exam at school, or just general feelings of stress or anxiety that children may feel, which we will discuss a little further along in this webinar, some of the triggers that children experience. This, for an adult, can be stuck in traffic and late for work, or 20 minutes looking for our iPhone. And you'll notice as I'm talking to you, I've kept my fist in this tight little ball, yet I'm changing my response to it. I'm not letting this overtake my whole body. I'm being the boss of my breath. I'm in control of my response to this. And that's what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn how to teach children to recognize how their stress response feels in their body, and provide them with the tools to step in and take control. So let's begin. We'll start with discussing the benefits of mindful breathing. So modulating moods, emotions, and reactions, that's self-regulation for children. Giving children, as I just mentioned, the ability to recognize, how does stress feel in my body? How do I respond to stressful situations? How do I know when I'm feeling this way? As I mentioned, it can be something as innocuous as looking for your iPhone, and we don't even realize that we're holding our breath or tensed up over that small little inconvenience in our day. Helping children to recognize what these stress patterns are, what stress breathing feels like, and then providing them with the tools and the knowledge to use those tools as and when they need them. That gives children a sense of empowerment. It's like, what can I do? This is my breath, my body, my mind, my emotions. What can I do to help myself? How can I help myself take control? And having children recognize, teaching them to understand that, hey, I do have the ability to control how I respond and how I feel. That leads us to helping children grow into confident, in control kids through mindful breathing skills. Increased learning. So when we connect to the breath, when we're breathing mindfully, not only are we having a host of mental and physical benefits, which I will discuss in a moment, but we're also meditating, because if you're aware of the breath, and meditation is just a fancy word for being connected to the present moment. The word mindfulness is one that's a little more commonly used. That's really what meditation is being 100% connected to the moment. And if you're connecting to each breath, you're connecting moment to moment, because you can only breathe in the moment. So we're adding in that meditation component. The minute we're teaching children to breathe mindfully, we're also teaching them to meditate. If a child can self-regulate how they feel, they can take that breath and get that moment of clarity and be in the moment. It helps them to focus better. It helps them to absorb information, retain information, and process information. So again, that leads to increased learning in the classroom. Mental and physical health, we just discussed being able to modulate moods, emotions, reactions. I like to think of mindful breathing and meditation, working with children, and I've worked a lot with children for many years, teaching them these tools, as we help children to shift from a reactive or reflexive state to a more reflective response. And that, again, this is through these tools and encouraging children to practice and reflect post-practice on how they feel. And again, a little further along, we'll discuss communicating this with children and how to help children really understand the benefits of these techniques that you're teaching them. So physical and mental health, so we have the modulation of moods, emotions, reactions, reducing stress and anxiety, again, providing kids with those tools to self-regulate and be in control of how they feel and respond. We're starting to develop the mind-body connection, that awareness of the mind and the body and how they are, you can connect them. And the breath is a wonderful tool for that, because if we're thinking about our breath, we're connecting our mind to something that's happening physiologically in the body. So the breath is almost like a bridge connecting the mind and the body through these mindful breathing techniques. Posture improves. If we're sitting up nice and tall, we can breathe better. So as we start to introduce breathing techniques, the posture naturally begins to improve. Along with that comes core stabilization and strengthening and toning of the core. This is achieved through breathing techniques. Also, we have tongue positioning. Through the tongue position of the tongue and the mouth positioning required for some breathing techniques can help with speech and language development as well. So there's a host of really wonderful physical and mental benefits through breathing, which I like to call it a superpower. It's really powerful stuff. This little tool that we all have access to just takes being shown by a caring adult how to access this tool, and from a young age, what a wonderful, wonderful tool to have. And finally, self-esteem. If you're sitting up tall, if you're relaxed, if you're feeling in control of your mind, your body, your emotions, of course, you're going to be a lot more confident. And that's a wonderful thing to help children develop this self-esteem from an early age as well. So we're talking about some stresses for kids. Why are kids stressed? Schoolwork for one, extracurricular activities. I find a lot of the children I work with have really busy schedules, almost overscheduled, and not a lot of free time, which is very different to how I was raised. I'm going to give my age away, but back in the 70s and 80s. And it's just, the world has changed, and it's just the way it is. So it's more important, I think, now than ever to really provide children with these tools to learn how to take mini breaks themselves, how to center themselves, and how to feel good and in control of not only their bodies and minds, but also their schedules. And we can do this with just helping them with some mindfulness skills. Responsibilities and expectations. Now, this can be parents, this can be coaches, it can be teachers, it can be peers, and they can also be self-imposed. A lot of kids feel this pressure to perform, to achieve, and to keep to those busy schedules. So this all can create and build up stress. Physical stress from carrying heavy backpacks. I know we live in a technological age, and I was under the misconception that children now take laptops and iPads to school and they don't have to carry all those heavy books that I did back in my day. But I see a lot of, especially my teens and tweens, with really big books and heavy bags. So this creates stress and tension in the body. And so all these posture correcting breathing techniques can really help counter that. And then leading into the tech neck, again, technology, we're hunching forward, we're bending forward. So these breathing techniques that help improve posture can really, really help to counter that tech neck, as I like to call it. Psychological stress, again, peer pressure, bullying, and to take that back to focused learning, if a child has these self-regulation skills and they can relieve feelings of stress or anxiety, whether it's related to bullying or just a kid who's generally an anxious kid. That allows them to focus better and learn in school too as well. Nobody can learn in a learning environment if they don't feel safe. So if a child is anxious or stressed about something and they don't have the tools to help self-soothe or self-regulate, they're not going to be able to focus. So again, this is the value of providing children the skills and tools to recognize, hey, this is how I'm feeling. How can I change my response or how I'm feeling so I'm more in control? And again, technological stress, I'm back to the technology. I'm not anti-technology. It's, again, how the world has evolved, and it can be a wonderful tool. However, I've noticed with a lot of the kids I work with, they're in this instant go mode, instant gratification, because all this information comes so fast at their fingertips, and it's what they're used to. However, as we all know as adults, that's not exactly how life works. So preparing children with these tools to help them navigate life, real life, and the speed at which life works, and the natural delays and disappointments that can happen in life, and providing children with these tools, and also the awareness of the benefits of slowing down can be really helpful. And I have some tricks for that, which we'll discuss a little further along in the webinar. So what is your superpower? We all have the same superpower, and it is the breath. You may have heard me mention it earlier. I do tout the breath as our secret little superpower, and it shouldn't be a secret. It's something we should all learn how to use and use every day. So let's explore our superpower and how the breath works. So I have my handy dandy Hoberman sphere. I love this toy. All the kids I work with love it. I've used this for, oh my gosh, so many years. It's one of the first tools I picked up to teach children how the breath works. A little of my background, I actually teach an inpatient yoga therapy program in a children's hospital here in St. Louis. And I started that program around 2011, 2012. And this is just a great way for my patients, but it works with all children. I teach children outside of the hospital. I've taught in classrooms and youth organizations and private lessons with children of all abilities. And this is just a wonderful tool for kids of all ages, because you can see this moves exactly how our body does when we breathe. So, So we breathe in, our lungs fill up like two beautiful balloons. And then as we breathe out, look what happens. They empty out. Our rib cage also expands to accommodate the expansion of the lungs as we breathe in. And then look what happens. It relaxes as we breathe out. Now, when we breathe in, and I use this tool and chat with kids as I move this so they can really start thinking about their breath moving just like this ball. So when we breathe in oxygen, which is something our body needs. When we breathe out, it's no longer oxygen, it's carbon dioxide. And I like to explain that to kids as the junk we don't need. So and I love this tool because look exactly what's happening. We're breathing in, we're expanding, we're filling up with what we need. We're breathing out, we're letting go of the stuff we don't need. And look what's happening to the ball, we're relaxing. So every breath we take, there's an opportunity to let go and relax with each exhale. Now, what else do we not need? We don't need stress or tension in our body. So every time we breathe out is an opportunity to relax and let go of the stuff we don't need. Do you see where I'm going with this? So you can plant little seeds subtly with a great visual aid and just using an analogy like that. So what's happening physiologically with the breath, we can follow along and apply that to, hey, what else don't I need? I don't need these thoughts. I don't need these feelings. Fill in the blanks. So it can be a really helpful tool for children. So that's how the breath works. We breathe in, we fill up with oxygen. We breathe out, we let go, we relax, we release the stuff we don't need. So When we created that stress, and then I kept talking and I held this, that's all I was doing. Instead of responding to this by holding my breath and tensing up, which is a natural human response, it's called fight or flight, or the sympathetic nervous system. What I did was I was the boss of my breath. I kept breathing, which I'm doing now, and I consciously made sure the rest of my body was nice and relaxed, even though this is happening. So even though I'm aware this is happening, I'm controlling my response to it by breathing and being the boss of my breath. And I'll explain how I'll demonstrate, how I explain this to children. So if you think of the autonomic nervous system as a teeter-totter or a seesaw, down this end of the scale, we'll put the sympathetic nervous system, or the fight or flight mode. That's the, I'm looking for my iPhone for 20 minutes. Where is it? Is that mode, which is hardly life or death. I need to reiterate that. At the other end of this scale, we have our parasympathetic nervous system, or our rest and digest mode. And that's the, hey, I'm chilled out on the sofa watching TV, life is good, I'm so relaxed. That's that mode. Now, when we did this, we may have slightly activated our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight. Now, how do I deactivate that and activate this? With the breath. So here's where we've tensed up and held our breath, but if we step in and take control of the breath and be the boss of our breath, we can actually activate our rest and digest mode. And that's pretty powerful stuff. Our breath is an involuntary action. Thank goodness we don't have to think about it all day long. Imagine if we got busy or distracted and we forgot to breathe. It's a function that happens on its own, meaning it's involuntary. The beautiful thing is we can step in and make it voluntary. And it's the same with the autonomic nervous system response, as I just demonstrated. That's an involuntary response too, but by using the breath, we can actually step in and make that voluntary as well. We can be in control. We can modulate our responses. That's the beautiful thing. And that's what we're learning here. And we're learning how to convey this to children. So, how do we teach it to younger kids? For younger children, we make it fun and engaging. We do it through play. We do it through games, which we're going to explore some today. Still making it educational. And I do this via communication. So it's these little chats throughout. It's like, how does that feel? Or what did you notice? Or, did you breathe differently when you played the game this way? So we just I just through conversation and communication, I plant those little seeds and get kids thinking about their breath. But again, we do it through play, linking the techniques to something that means something to them, or, like Disney Princess or Ninja Turtles. And there's lots of creative ways you can present a breathing technique so it is engaging for a child. And we're going to explore some of those today. I also have resource materials on my website. You could always email me as well for more fresh ideas. But the key is just to make it fun and engaging and playful. So we're playing while we're exploring and learning something. And I'm a big believer in learning through play. I think it's a much more fun way to learn. And I think it's easier for kids to retain when we do it in a fun way. Communication with younger children as well, keeping the language simple, keeping it literal. And I'm going to actually demonstrate a little cue I use. And so I want you to make that fist again, really, really tight. Keep making the fist, and I'm going to guide you to breathe. Let's take an easy breath in and a relaxing breath out. Keep making the fist, but breathe with me. Easy inhale, relaxing exhale. Keep making the fist, easy breath in and relaxing breath out. Easy inhale, relaxing exhale. And now release the fist. Did that feel different to the last time? Okay, so we used the breath. You were the boss of your breath. But I want to swing back to communication. Did you notice the language I used, cueing you to breathe? I said easy breath in. I didn't say big breath, and that's a mistake I notice a lot of parents and even staff at my hospital make when they're working with patients who are stressed and having a procedure, all with good intentions. But to say to a child, take a big breath in, that's usually the response you're going to take, creates more stress. However, that simple cue, take a nice easy breath in, relaxing breath out. When we bring the attention to the breath, we naturally start to slow and deepen it. And it will deepen as the child connects to the breath as and when the body's ready and without creating more stress or tension. So there's just that simple cue, easy inhale, relaxing exhale. That's a great communication skill to have, to be able to think of ways to present it to children so it's not intimidating, it's not an order, it's not going to create more stress. You want to think of your cues as being subtle but understandable and helping you to achieve the results that you're looking for, if that makes sense. So easy inhale, relaxing exhale is a really common cue I use a lot when working for kids. Without a long, you don't need to explain it. And that's the simple way you find these creative cues that you can just pepper in, and they're enough. You don't need lengthy explanations if you have the right cues. Encouraging and empowering young kids is like, how do you feel? Oh, and this is another very important point that I must make before we move on, is no leading. So I encourage and empower kids to reflect, explore how the technique felt for them, but I never lead with, oh, was that relaxing? And here's why. You might have a super compliant kid, you do this technique, they're like, oh, I really didn't enjoy that, or I really don't get what she means. And you're like, how do you feel? Do you feel really relaxed? And they're like, yeah, I feel relaxed. And you leave, you think you've helped them, and they're like, oh, thank goodness she's gone and I don't have to do this again, or whatever the situation. So not leading a child, just having a very open conversation about the technique, you can learn so much more, and it sets you up to be able to help the child so much more. If they didn't get it, if it didn't resonate with them, it's time to move on and find a different technique or present the same technique in a different way. And that's possible too. The same technique presented in a completely different way can be a breakthrough moment for a child. But you're never going to know that unless you keep the lines of communication open and don't lead. So let the child tell you how they felt, and then you'll know whether this technique is for them or if you need to work with them to explore different ways for them to engage with their breath. Okay. So we're going to do an example of a breathing technique for children. I'm calling this the Magic Rose breathing technique. There is a certain Disney princess that has a magic rose, but because I don't have the license to use her in my webinar presentation, I will let you imagine and use your imaginations and guess who that is. But we'll call it the Magic Rose breathing technique for today. So we're going to hook our thumbs and rest the heels of our hands together and the fingertips touch. Now, young children may not have the fine motor skills to connect the thumbs. So in that case, we would just rest the heels of the hands, fingers. Every rose is different. So your rose, make your rose whichever way you like. It's all good. So we have our rose. Now let's smell our rose and share the magic. We're going to blow in it. Share the magic with the world. Good. Let's do it again. Let's smell our rose and share the magic. One more. Let's smell the rose and share the magic. Okay. Did you hear me say, take a big breath in? Don't hold your breath. Breathe, breathe, relax, relax. I didn't even mention the breath. Let's do it one more time. Smell the rose. And now let's blow on the petals and share the magic. Did you take a big breath in? I did. Did you hold your breath? I didn't. Did you feel a little relaxed after that? Me too. Yeah, I didn't once mention the breath. So this is another example of how you can creatively cue children to connect to the breath without it being one of these commands or orders like, oh, you got to breathe, don't hold your breath, don't hold your breath. And it serves in the setting I work in, certainly as a fun distraction. It's engaging. It's, oh, we're capturing imaginations and we're playing. So that's how we can introduce breathing to young children in a very creative and mindful way. So older kids, teens and tweens, again, communication, education. This is why we're doing this. And older kids and teens, they want to know more about their bodies. So you can really educate them, teaching them about how the breath works, about the autonomic nervous system, guiding them to understand that, hey, you are the boss of your breath. You can step in and take control. You've got this. And that's very empowering. And that's important too, to really empower and encourage these children to access these techniques when they need them the most. I love the iPad analogy. That's one that I came up with a long time ago to really encourage my kids to participate in their sessions. And most of my teens and tweens have a tablet or a smartphone, and they're super connected to their friends. It's how they connect with their friends, and they love their TikTok, they love their Snapchat. So I'll ask them just very casually, hey, what happens if you playing on that all day and you forget to plug it in and you wake up the next morning? What happens? They're like, oh, the battery's dead. And then I'll ask, well, what if you're playing on it? You may have a full charge or even a half charge of battery, or a low charge, whatever your charge of battery. What if you have all of your apps running at the same time? And then you're trying to get this one gaming app going. It's like, oh yeah, it's slow, it's sluggish, it doesn't respond well. So our bodies and our minds are just like our smartphones and tablets. We have a lot of different apps running, and we need to close those apps down and give them a break. We need to power off and recharge. When you explain the technique that way, using an analogy of something that has a stake for children that they understand, they get it immediately. It's like, oh, wow, I get that. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So many of my kids that are really into their electronics, when I introduce the concept of a movement meditation mindfulness session, and I explain it that way, they'll put the electronic away right away. They're like, okay, let's do this. For my kids who are gamers, movement meditation and mindfulness is so important because, and we will, further along in this webinar series, we will come to specific exercises, movement stretches that are helpful and supportive for kids to counter tech use. But to bring it back to the mindful breathing, which we're talking about today, that ability to recenter, to focus, to refresh the mind is really, really helpful. And a lot of my kids, as they've worked with me, really start to see the benefits and access these techniques on their own to help them with their gaming. So you can really, I don't want to sound sneaky, but say you can really sell the benefits of mindful breathing to kids quite easily. So we will move on to the next one, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And the mindful or mindful image. I love this image. I love to show this to my kids. They get it immediately. Again, as we mentioned earlier, when we're being mindful of the breath, we are connecting to the present moment. So we are meditating. Meditation is a fancy word for being present in the moment. That's all. And if we look at this image, who is meditating, the human or the dog? Then I'll ask my kids, who do you want to be? Look at the human. He's got all this stuff on his mind. And the dog is just like, hey, it's a sunny day. I'm in the park. I'm with my human. Life is good. I think everybody wants to be the dog in this image. And this trick is we actually can. It's not a trick. We just have to have the knowledge. And that's what we're here today for, is to learn how we can convey this knowledge to children and take some on board for ourselves while we're at it. So let's explore breath play. I've already discussed the Hoberman sphere. I'm actually going to adjust the camera a little because I've got a table set up with some toys on it, and we will review a few games that are fun ways to teach children. Okay. So, just making sure yeah. So, we've already explored the Hoberman sphere. And this is a great toy for kids. I just have them hold it and connect with their breath. As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be a big breath, especially in the beginning. I encourage children just to move with their natural breath. So, and I tell them, I don't care if it's here at first, it's okay. And eventually, as they do it, and watching it is amazing if you can get one of these and work with it with your kids, it's amazing to watch how the breath, they start to slow it down after a few rounds. It's great for children too, because it's a perfect visual aid. They see it in real time, and it starts to establish that mind-body connection with a really solid anchor. Now, if we don't have one, simply moving the hands, breathing in. Imagine you're filling up a beautiful balloon between your hands, breathing out. So we can imagine a color. So you pick the color of your balloon. I'll pick orange, for example, today. So we're breathing in, beautiful orange balloon, breathing out, letting the balloon deflate. So every inhale, we fill our balloon up, and every exhale, we let it deflate. So and I'll teach kids this, because even if they have one of these, they may not have it every time they need it. So, hey, if you don't have your Hoberman sphere handy, but you're feeling like, hey, I'm going into a little bit of stress breathing, I feel it, just move your hands. It's okay. So again, same technique, just presented in a different way. Bubbles are a really fun tool to teach kids the breath. I'm not going to do them today because I don't think, just with the way the lighting is in the room, and especially this little tiny bubble maker I have, I don't know if the bubbles will be visible. For those who are attending the live webinar, you will get some bonus MP3 and MP4 files, and one of the MP4 files has a little bubbles moving. For those who aren't live, I'll explain it. So if we have bubbles and we do a uncontrolled, sharp, bursty breath, we're not going to make a good bubble. Just the detergent's probably just going to go everywhere. However, if we take a nice easy breath and do that nice long controlled exhale, we can really form beautiful bubbles. Now, bubbles, you can get obviously bigger, better ones than these. These are the little mini ones I use when I take my training on the road, and so I can travel with them. But you can get bigger bubble ones. You can get the colorful ones, which make it more fun for kids. My kids who I work with who need extra sensory support, I'll often get the bubbles that stay formed. And that's a wonderful way, because we work on the breath, creating that beautiful bubble. And then it's something they can actually hold in their hand and see and feel. So that's another great tool to look into. Pretty much Amazon, Walmart, places like that. If you search those, you can find the bubbles that stay formed, or the colorful bubbles as well. So feathers are a great way for children just to see their breath, watching it move, holding it on the hand, just seeing that their breath is, especially for younger children, this may be as far as we go, just seeing, wow, I have this power in me, this superpower. You can start planting that seed, and it's moving this feather. You do it with a cotton ball. Then I hold on to these feathers because I actually use them as part of this game that I have set up here. Now, this is one of my air sports games. We're going to play basketball today. I've played soccer with kids, with run bases, all using our breath, tennis, and this particular one, golf, and this one is basketball. So when we play basketball, to score, we have to shoot the ball through the hoop. If we're directly in front of the hoop and it's not being defended because it's a free shot, so the opposition and our team are just standing around as we get that free shot, we get 1 point. So I've got my 1 pointer set up here. It's going to be a nice direct shot for me. It's pretty easy to get to. Now, if we're inside the semicircle, the half circle where the hoop is, and the offense and defense are playing. So I've got players in front of me and it's a little bit more challenging. And I get the ball in the hoop, I get 2. So we've got to have 2 here, and it's angled a little. It's a little harder for me to get to. It's a little more challenging. And then if I'm outside that half circle and the defense and offense are playing and I get the ball in the hoop, I get 3, because that's pretty hard. So I've set that one a little further away, angled it again in a more tricky position. And now I'm just going to come down to the floor to play this. Just making sure you can still see me. So as I mentioned, I work in a hospital setting, so I will do this with my kids sitting up bed with their tray table. I've set it up on the bench and table in the room if my kiddo is out of the bed. When I'm not in the hospital setting, I will set up yoga mats, and we will set these up at one end of the yoga mat and we lay on our bellies. And that adds in a little core strengthening as well, laying on the belly. It adds some tactile input for kids that need that extra sensory input to help their nervous systems be organized. And again, that's another webinar a little further along. We will discuss movement meditation and mindfulness and how it supports sensory development. So that's one that's coming along in the future. So definitely stay tuned to all of these learning objectives. There's going to be a fresh one every week. And that one is a little further along, but I digress. Let's get back to our basketball game. It's a very serious basketball game we have going here. So I have a little felt pom-pom. I went orange today, so it's like a basketball, but you can get any color you like. I have 2 straws today, and I am using this for demonstrative purposes. I have a regular bendy straw, which is helpful because we can not only just use our breath, but we can bend the straw a little to help maneuver the ball. And I have a thick smoothie straw. I'm showing you both because some children may have, with sensory processing issues, may have trouble with lip closure around such a small, narrow straw. So the smoothie straws can be helpful for children that may have trouble with lip closure. You can get smoothie straws that are bendy. I know I'm using plastic straws. These are old stock that I have in my office, but we are moving to paper, and with a little diligence in your searching, I'm sure you'll be able to find paper smoothie straws that are bendy. So I just wanted to note that's why I have plastic. I didn't go out and buy them recently. They're stock from my office that I'm finishing up with. So how do we play? Most important. So I'll first set this up and I'll let my kids just play. So we're just trying to get it in. And at this point, I'm not educated on the breath. I'm just a kiddo trying to get the ball in. Yay, I got one. So after we play for a little bit, I'll bring the feather in. I'm going to come back close to the camera as we discuss this feather. So we have our feather, and we can see these soft plumy parts here. And then we see these more thick formed parts. I want you to blow with me. Imagine you've got this feather. You can see what it's like. So imagine you're trying to just blow on these soft plumy parts so that only they move. Good. Now let's blow so we move this part. Okay, let's do it again. Just the soft plumy parts. And now the thicker, more formed. How did that feel? Did you notice anything different with how you had to breathe to move these parts versus this part? Now, again, typically not leading, but because we're not set up for a direct dialogue here, I will fill in the blanks with what most of my kids say. And again, this is the lines of communication. I don't lead them to tell me, oh, this was a more gentle breath, and this one I had to breathe a lot harder, or how it felt in their body. This felt easy and effortless and relaxing. This felt like it required a lot of energy and power from me, and you would be tiring to do this all day. I will just, again, we'll play with it. and see if they do notice any difference. If they don't, if a child isn't noticing, then that's time to explore a different technique or work with them to see how this feels and find different ways to explore how the breath feels and how the feather is moving. This may not be the technique for that child. It's very rare this happens. Most of the kids, this is a very strong visual and sensory exercise to really see and feel the breath. However, there are cases that I've had where this does not work. But I'm going to give it about a 95% of that it does, which is why I'm using it today. So gentle breath moves that, and the more powerful breath moves this. But did you notice anything else? And this one, most of my kids don't notice, and this is the one where I'm like, you know what else I noticed? Let's do it again. That's that nice gentle breath, but even though it's the gentle breath, it has a lot more control, because look what's happening. Even though it's a soft, gentle breath, I'm maintaining control because I'm only moving that part, which is what I set out to do. Now, when I use this power breath, I get all the power, but I lose control. The whole feather moves. I'm not just moving this part. So you can see where I'm subtly planting that seed. The gentle breath is the one we need when we want control, how we feel, how we're responding. Nothing wrong with the power breath. We'll use both. So we're going to think about that feather breath as we play the game and see if we can improve our score. So remember that seed I planted? If I want to control the ball, I want to use that nice gentle breath. Now it's lined up, so this is what I mean. There's nothing wrong with that power shot. I got it in. But when I want control, when I want to control and steer the ball, that nice gentle breath. So what I typically do when I play this game with kids is we'll play, see what our score is, then we'll do the feather trick, learn about the breath, and then we'll play again and see if we improve our score. And kids typically do improve their score. So that's just a few little games that you can introduce breath control and mindful breathing to kids in a fun and playful way. So let's talk about breathing techniques. We did the stress test. So we can do it with a stress ball. We've got going with the basketball theme today. We squeeze the stress ball really, really, really tight. And then we can work on educating children about how that felt and really explore, like, what did that feel like in the rest of your body? And do it a few times. And then step in and teach the breathing. And then exactly what I did earlier, where we made that fist and then I guided you with the hope and sphere. And just planting the seeds and awareness. Knowledge is power and self-knowledge is power. How do I, and everybody responds differently. Some people, it may be the teeth, or it may be the stomach, or, you know, it may be the other hand, or it may be really holding the breath, and it may be everything. So again, this is a valuable tool for children to explore. Hey, how does that feel in my body, and how do I respond? And then providing you with the tools, how can I fix that? How can I be the boss and take control? So I'm going to play a little video on belly breathing, because it could be pretty boring to tell a kid, hey, just take some deep belly breaths. So I'm going to show you a little video, and we'll play that right now. Hi, I'm Lisa Roberts, and I'm here with Jonah. Today, Jonah and I are going to demonstrate different ways to bring the attention to the belly to encourage deep belly breathing. So it can be boring for kids just to be told to do some deep belly breaths. So, got my little ducky friend here. I'm going to place this duck on your belly, Jonah. We're going to take the duck for a swim. Okay, so you're going to get easy breath in. See the dog come up and nice relaxing breath out. Good. Easy inhales. You're the ocean or the water. You're taking that little dog for a swim, so you want to breathe nice and smooth. But you're the boss. You're controlling this duck's little swim on the water today. Good. Easy inhales. And relaxing exhales. Good job. Okay, so I'm going to take a step away just for a moment. Some of the kiddos I work with, their sensory processing doesn't allow them to be aware of something as light as a duck. So in most cases, sometimes something with a little bit of weight. This is a sandbag full of rice. This is going to be a little heavy, Jonah, okay? I'm just giving you a heads up. But that can just help bring the attention to the belly. Do you feel that? So where that's pressing on your belly, I want you to breathe into it. Yeah. So you feel it pressing to your belly. Now breathe out. Whoa, it helps you breathe out, right? It fills that air out. It does, doesn't it? One more easy breath in. Press against the back. Good. And let go. Whoa. Okay. So that's another way to help direct the attention to the belly with a little bit of weight and some sensory input. Another method I use is using a football. This is a kid-size football. So I'm going to give you a little assist, Jonah, actually. I'm going to place this on your belly. So I'm going to add a little bit of resistance as Jonah breathes. You ready? Let's take a breath in. As I'm feeling breathing, I'm going to just gently press on the ball. Okay, now breathe out. I'm going to move with it. Like easy breath in, and I'm just going to add a little resistance there. And now breathe out. Good. One more. Do you feel the ball? Okay, let's take an easy breath in. Do you feel me pressing a little? And breathe out. Good. So that's 3 different ways you can bring the attention to the belly for kids with a duck or a toy. You can use a bean bag or a sandbag if you need a little bit more weight and a little bit more sensory input, or even a hands-on manual assist like I just did using the football. How do you feel, Jonah? Pumped up? Okay. Okay, so you see how we can explore the belly in fun ways for kids, and also to support kids who may not feel something as light as a duck or a small beanbag on their belly, from just the toy for awareness through those nice solid manual assists for kids that may have some sensory processing issues or challenges. I'm actually going to lead you through a little guided breathing technique right now. We're going to do, it's a, excuse me, just turning that off so that we can sit together without distraction. We're going to do a little technique called Firefly Ballet. So this is using creative visualization. So finding a comfortable seat, close your eyes and rest your hands on your belly. Make sure your shoulders and elbows are nice and relaxed. And we'll take 3 breaths together, a nice easy breath in through the nose. Let it out with a sigh. 2 more, just like that. Easy breath in through the nose. And let it out with a sigh. 1 more, easy breath in. Big old sigh, let it go. And now let the breath come and go without effort. Just let it be nice and natural and easy. And as you sit here breathing, relaxed with your hands resting on your belly, imagine a beautiful color, one that makes you feel calm, relaxed, and happy. And we're going to pretend that you're a firefly, and every time you breathe in, your belly is going to fill with that color. And every time you breathe out, the color is going to softly fade. So with each breath, we'll pulse between your brightest and mildest expression. So easy breath in, the belly fills, beautiful bright color filling the belly. Breathing out, the color gently fades as the belly softens. Inhaling, our beautiful bright firefly belly glows on the inhale, fading to its mildest expression as you relax with each exhale. Easy inhales, beautiful bright light filling the belly. Breathing out, belly softens, light gently fades to nothing. 1 more, filling the belly, brightest expression, beautiful bright firefly belly. Breathing out, everything relaxes as the light softly fades. And just relax and breathe normally for a few moments. Open your eyes when you are ready. So that's just some different ways you can bring mindfulness to children and mindful breathing to children through play and through specific targeted breathing techniques. Another anchor, so we just use creative visualization, we use the belly, we've used the whole hemisphere, we've used the stress ball. Another anchor to bring attention to the breath and breath control is mantra, and this is a great one for teens and tweens. Mantra is a very personal thing. The only advice I have, the best advice I can give, and you'll often hear people say, oh, I'm breathing in good, I'm breathing out bad. My philosophy is more to focus on the positive. So I encourage the children I work with to say, to switch that and be, I'm breathing in good, I'm breathing out, I feel great. So we're really focusing on that positive. There's a bunch of examples on this screen, so I'll give you a moment to look through them. And it doesn't have to be a whole phrase. It doesn't have to be something different for the inhale, exhale. You can use the same word or phrase for the inhale and exhale. It's a very personal thing. I like to discuss it with children and come up with one that works for them on that day, but definitely educate kids and communicate clearly that, hey, you can choose a different mantra every day, every time you practice. My personal mantra is, where is my body? Where is my breath? Where is my mind? And that brings me straight back to the moment, because I'm, again, making that mind-body connection. Where is my body? Where is my breath? Where is my mind? If I connect to my breath, I'm connecting to my body and mind, and I'm bringing them all into the present moment. So when I find myself leaving my sunglasses or my car keys in the freezer when I'm unpacking groceries, I know I'm not being mindful. Immediately, I think of that mantra, and that draws me in, and I connect to the breath. Breathing in, where is my breath? Breathing out, where is my mind? Breathing in, where is my body? And I just keep repeating that until I feel centered and I can take my sunglasses and car keys out of the freezer.